Hi everyone! Today we're going to be talking to Corey Silverberg again, and if you're one of my kid viewers you might not find this very exciting, so you might want to check out one of these awesome music videos right here, or you might want to check out this video that teaches you how to make jello that you can pick up with your hands. And if you're one of my adult viewers, today we're talking about when to talk to kids about their bodies and private parts and all of that stuff that we as parents really need to know how to talk to our kids and when to talk to our kids. So last video with Corey, we talked about how babies are made or where babies come from. And Corey is a sex educator and author of that book. And if you didn't watch that video, I'm going to put a link at the end of this video and also in the description below so you can check that out. He's also the author of Sex is a Funny Word, and I love the way that this book is written.
Thank you.
And it's actually like a comic.
Right.
It's a comic. So if you did watch the video of What Makes a Baby, you know that my mother gave me an encyclopedia book and said read it and let me know if you have any questions. I didn't read it because it was literally words on a paper and it was boring, and so I didn't read it. Whereas this book it's fantastic. Like you can see it here. It's really written in a comic book style.
Yes.
The information, I love chunking. I'm a former teacher, so chunking information is always a great way to teach kids. Right. So my question to you, and the reason why I sort of contacted you in the first place is because I have a 10-year-old.
Right.
And
it's like a precipice.
Yeah, it feels that way. Yeah. And I know that they're introducing in schools a little bit about changes in their bodies and things that will happen and feelings and all that stuff. And I want to make sure that I'm able to be available to talk to her about it. And so my question to you really is, when do I talk to her about it? And what do I say?
And I'm laughing because your voice just keeps going up.
I don't know.
So let me just start with this one point, which is that one of the reasons that we as adults and parents find it so hard to talk to our kids about this stuff is that we actually still have issues, right? We all have body issues, right? None of us love our bodies the way Dove tells us we should or whatever. And we all have issues around sexuality. So like when parents get so freaked out, I really want to just remind them, like, there's a reason for that. And so part of the first thing to do actually is to spend a little time just on your own or with your spouse or your husband or your partner talking about this issue. Like, why am I so freaked out? What is it that I would want to talk to my kids about? And just know that there's a very good reason why this is so hard to talk about. The question about what to say and when. So sex educators usually say that the thing is kids should know kids should have information a little bit before they need to know it, right? Not way before they need to know it. So like, you know, we're not talking about condoms and safer sex to a 6-year-old, you know, but at this age, you know, what we want kids to know about is we want them to know about their bodies, right? And so you even do this thing, we talk about their bodies and their private parts, right? And so in our book, we don't use the term private parts because it's important that for us that kids know that any part of the body could be private. They should be able to say no to anyone, with some exceptions, who's touching them in a way they don't like. So obviously the exceptions are a parent, you know, and we do this in the book, we explain that a parent might grab you and pull you over the road, whether you like it or not. If you break your arm, we're going to take you to the doctor and they're going to do things that are going to hurt whether you like it or not. But if someone's touching you in a way that feels wrong to you, you should always be able to talk to a parent about it and tell. And the thing is that if you want your kids to be able to do that, they need to know the words. So the basics in the book it's all the body parts, right? So it's not just head, shoulders, knees, and toes. It's penis and bum, and vulva and vagina, which are two different terms and two different body parts. And it's important that kids know the words and know that they can talk about them. And that's kind of it, right? At this age, it isn't important that I mean, you're not going to go into kind of the sexual aspects of these things for a kid at this age. You know, the truth is that as they get older, they might ask questions. My general opinion, though, I have to say, is that even with older kids, I'm not sure that it makes sense for parents to ever talk explicitly with their kids about sexual activities. I think our job, or our role, is to make sure that they have access to information, and that it's good information. And part of that is, that's why we wrote a book. I mean, you know, having a few books around the house is key, and then following your kid, right? So you can have some books, and you can ask your daughter, did you look through them? And if she says, no, I think they're stupid, you could say, okay, well, I'm not sure they're stupid, but maybe I'll ask you about them next month. or something like that. That you're giving information and then you're kind of stepping back.
Right. And I think this is important for you to note, because this was what I was really stressed about, was I'm thinking she's at that age and I need to talk to her about it and she needs to know, and she's not ready. And Corey said, that's okay. That's okay that she's not ready, but it's good that she knows that she can come to me and I'm available when she is ready.
Right.
And then to bring it up again. So she might not come and say, knock, 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 I'm ready.
Right, right.
But in a month from now, I might say, you know, do you have any questions? And she might say, you know what, I do have questions.
Right, right.
Okay.
So it's that, and also looking for teachable moments, right? So noticing, I mean, it's so hard for parents these days because we don't get to see what our kids see anymore, right? We don't have a TV in the den where we can walk in the room and see what's on TV. You know, our kids are looking at screens. But if you do get to see what music video she's listening to, or, you know, if you're driving your kid and their friend's home from school or something and you hear the conversation, you know, and you hear someone, like a common thing would be you hear someone use the word gay as a slur, right? So that's so gay. That's an opportunity later on to say, oh, I heard that word. Do you know what that word means? And so in our book, we actually talk about what that word means. You know, so looking for those teachable moments. But I think that, like, the stress that you're feeling and the stress that most parents feel partly comes from this idea that there's one conversation, right? We have this idea of the sex talk, and we see it in movies, and it's just not that way. That's not how it works. That's not how we learn anything, right? You teach your kids the basic colors, and sometime eventually they learn how colors mix, but like, the kids don't learn everything about color in one lesson. They don't learn everything about numbers or math in one lesson. And the same is true for their bodies and gender and touch and sexuality. So it's a lifelong thing. Right.
Yeah. So I think some parents worry about talking to their kids about sex.
Right.
But you don't mention sex in the book.
Well, so sex is in the title, but it's true, because this is a book for sort of kids around like sort of 8, 9, 10 years old. The only sexual activity we talk about is masturbation. And we talk about it, and I know it's a hard topic for parents. Yes,
I will stop Corey there for a second, just because I know that I have a wide audience that follows me on YouTube, sure. And I am very respectful of everyone. And I know that some of you are going to feel uncomfortable with us even mentioning this, and that's fine. And I'm always about what is right for your family. I'm here to provide information to people that you can take or you can leave.
Right.
So Corey does talk about masturbation in the book.
Right. I mean, it's 4 pages, like, and it's probably about 500 words. It's not a big part of it. But the truth is that at this age, part of the thing we need to teach kids is about privacy, right? And so most parents have already dealt with this. Most parents have already talked to their kids about, well, we don't have our pants off here, we don't lift our dress up here, and often it's like take your hand out of your pants. Like, we need to be clear that when when an infant and toddler is touching their genitals, it isn't actually masturbation. They just know that part of their body feels good. Masturbation's an adult thing. It's something grown-ups do. So, having said that, though, we do need to teach our kids that that's not something you do at the dinner table, maybe, and certainly it's probably not something you do in church, or maybe visiting family. So, in order to do that, the problem is that what most of us just do is we say don't.
Yeah.
End of conversation.
Yeah.
And that tells kids that it's not okay to talk to us about things. So, if you want to be this askable parent, if you want to know that your kid will come to you, it's about giving the basic information, which is basically, this is a thing people do. There is nothing wrong with it, but in our book we say, but every family has different rules about it. Do you know the rules in your family? And then, like with every chapter, we end with questions, which is really about the parent and the child talking. So we don't say it's the best thing in the world. We don't say it's great. We don't say you should do it. We also don't say you shouldn't do it. But what we do say is that it's a private thing. And this is, at this age, this is a big lesson, is about the difference between public and private in all sorts of ways, right? Like, most of us have talked to our kids about inside and outside voice, which is just about, like, don't scream inside, and maybe you can talk louder outside. But our kids need to know about this, right? Our kids need to know that there's some things that's okay for them to do in the house. So masturbation fits into that.
You also mentioned sort of being the askable parent, and I really like that, because we were talking about that off camera, and I think that's my goal with my daughter and with my son too, is I want to be that askable parent. And that's what we were talking about with her not wanting to talk to me right now, but that's okay. because I'm letting her know that I'm not.
And so this Askable Parent is a term, I can't remember her name, but a sex educator, I think she wrote a book about it. And it's about approaching, but it's also about not forcing. It's about being able to, for your kid to see you say, like, okay, we can talk about it later. The other big thing about being an Askable Parent is admitting when you don't know things. I think it's crucial. I do this a lot with kids, where if they ask me a shocking question, and kids will ask very shocking questions, because they haven't learned those boundaries yet, I will show that I'm shocked. You know, if they ask me about, like, well, do you do that? I'll be like, wow, okay, well, that's not a bad question, but that's not a question I'm going to answer, because that's my private life, and we all get to make those choices. And having your kids see you do that is very important. See you put down the boundary. It isn't about being best friends with your kid, and it's certainly not about being, like, okay with anything. That's not what good sex education is.
Right. Yeah. So it's okay to tell your kids that that's something that you're not comfortable talking with them about, and that's okay. Okay, that's great. And you also mentioned crushes.
Yes.
So briefly, just give me a few highlights about them.
Well, okay, if you've never experienced them. Well, one of my favorite things is, in the book we always have kids ask the parents questions, and that's one of my favorite ones, because we say, ask, a parent or a grown-up if they've ever had a crush and what it felt like. Because the truth is that when you start trying to explain what it feels like, it's hard to do. But we explain that a crush is a special kind of feeling, and it happens for a lot of kids around this age where their attention is moving from the focus on the family to a focus on their peers. And all of a sudden, you have this thing where you just can't stop thinking about a kid. And so we explain, that you can have crushes on friends, you can have crushes on people you don't even know, so celebrities, and you can have you could sometimes have a crush on someone where there's this special feeling where you want to spend a lot of time with them. And we say you might want to hold their hand, right? Because again, it's for very young kids. And then we also go through the thing about, like, and sometimes they feel the same and sometimes they don't. And it's just an opportunity to kind of lay it out for kids that, like, this is this thing that's going to start happening, that it's so weird for kids, because they grow up and they have these feelings, and then all of a sudden, we talk about this precipice, it's like all these extra feelings, and it is confusing. And so talking about crushes and love, we just do it in a way that says, like, this is stuff that's coming up, and there's no right or wrong time, and there's no right or wrong way to do it, but you can always talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's great. So I like that you talk about that, and then you move into love, which, crushes and love are different, obviously, because you have a crush on a celebrity, you don't love that celebrity, and that's good to know, because you're talking about not just, like, here's your body and here's the mechanics,
that's right,
but the feelings that you're going to have as well, which I think is important.
And I would say that to add to, you started by saying this is important to talk about, but what's, so important, especially if you live in a place where your kids do get sex education in school, is the values piece, right? So I love talking about crushes because I can talk to kids of any age about that. And to me, that's sex education, right? Sex education is not just about the plumbing and the mechanics, right? It's about who we are and our feelings. And the truth is that we know this from surveys, research, that older kids are much more interested in knowing about relationships and how to navigate them than they are knowing, how does tab A fit into slot B, or however it works.
So that's interesting. So this book is geared towards 8 to 10, 11.
Yeah. It's for kids just before puberty.
Right. So you're not necessarily talking to your kids about puberty, you're talking to them about words and
the bodies they
bodies
have
and
and getting them ready. I mean, this is the thing. So the next book that we're writing is about puberty. So so maybe it'll be out at just the right time.
I'm going to have to have Corey back.
We're not going to talk about that because that's very personal, but...
Can you please make it within the next, until until I need it?
Until you know.
When I need it. But so basically what I want you guys to take away from this interview is what feels right for your family. And there's no set time, but it's good to have yourself like leaving books around for your kids to be able to read sort of around that 8 to 10 year age, absolutely. So that you're opening the door for the questions that they may have. And the one thing that I learned today, thank you very much, because I feel a weight lifted off my shoulders, is that you don't have to sit them down, talk them, give them the information. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. He says stop doing
more
that.
Scary.
My daughter's going to be very happy about that. Mom's going to leave me alone.
For now.
Yes. But then to follow up. So, you know, I'm here. And then, you know, a month later, are you ready to talk now? And maybe they are, and maybe they aren't. But to be that askable parent. Yeah. Any other tips you want to share, or did we cover it all?
Well, I think we covered as much as we could. Okay. I think, but again, my tip for parents is to try to relax themselves. That to know that it's a lifelong conversation. That if you screw up once, even if it's really bad, it's fine. I mean, the other thing I will say, one last thing, is that Kids are far more easygoing about this stuff than we are. Way more. They're not as freaked out as we are about any of this stuff because they haven't learned to be ashamed yet.
Right.
So don't feel so bad when you say, go ask your dad.
Right. And I think too that our parents weren't those people that made it easy to talk to. So, but we want to fix that. We want to change that. And, you know, especially with kids having access to the internet and information, it's just like a crazy flood of, so you want to be that person to give them the information that you want them to have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And when possible first. I mean, that's that's the reason about the age thing is like, when they learn about it on the internet first, then you have to spend a bunch of time uneducating them, getting rid of that stuff before you put in the new stuff, your stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. And where can people find your book?
So it's available everywhere: independent bookstores, online, the big online retailers.
Yeah.
Everywhere books are sold.
Well, I have to say thank you for writing this for parents like me.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. When you sent me this book and I read it, I was like, yes, something that I can share with my daughter.
Okay, I'm glad you liked it.
If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the description below. I'm happy to answer them, and if I don't know, I have Corey that I could ask, and he's always happy to share information with us as well. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
What makes a baby?
The babies come from nothing.
What else do you need to make a baby?
Beer?